When Mr. Paul got a hold of me a couple months ago, asked me if I would be available to come up and join him, you start thinking about Memorial Day and what it means, how we look at Memorial Day, what makes it so special. I think to most Americans, Memorial Day marks the beginning of summer. It's towards the end of school for most school children. College kids come home to their families. It's time for the swimming pools to open. Most businesses have a Memorial Day sale. It's a boom for businesses, the annual Memorial Day sale. Families and friends certainly today gonna get together for a barbecue, a picnic in the backyard, maybe closer to the coast. They get a towel and some sunscreen and head to the beach. Communities across the nation will hold some parades to entertain their citizens and recognize the weekend holiday. It's a 3-day holiday. We like holidays. We like Memorial Day a lot. However, and all those are good things. Those are the freedoms that we enjoy. But not all Americans will be celebrating quite so much this weekend. Some families won't be having a barbecue. Some won't go to the beach this weekend. Some children will not have a father's hand to hold as the parade passes by because their dad never came home from the war. It's these Americans, I think, that better define what Memorial Day is really all about, why we are here. This is about sacrifice for others. This is the willingness to sacrifice for a cause bigger than ourselves, and that cause is freedom. It is certainly about the ultimate sacrifice given by so many service members who died fighting to protect America. But as Mr. Paul mentioned, it's also about the sacrifice of the mother who stares somberly at the flag at half-mast, remembering her son who's no longer here with us. The sacrifice of the daughter who won't be walking down the aisle with her father on her wedding day. The widow who she somehow finds the strength to raise an entire family because their children watched their dad go off to war, waiting for him to come home, and he never did. Sacrifices come in many forms and are made by so many. Today, though, is a day for celebrating. It's the day for celebrating the lives of those who sacrificed. The mothers, the fathers, the spouses, and the children who sacrifice. Heroes. Heroes who volunteered to do a tough job, and those who did not come home. It's also a reminder, I think, of those who stood behind them and those who stood beside them all along the way. Because when America is at war, we're all in it together. We all sacrifice in one way or another, and that's part of what makes this great nation so very special. There is no better example of this total commitment to the mission than the sacrifices made more than 70 years ago by what many have termed the greatest generation. These men and women, I think, can best be described in one word: heroes. In the years leading up to World War II, America was in a pretty tough spot. The Depression had a grip on the country for more than a decade. Unemployment was high. Times were tough. It's hard to get a job. Families scraped to get by. But that generation, the one we're remembering today, was already beginning to display its toughness and its ability to rise above an unfortunate situation and come out on top. They already fully understood the meaning of sacrifice even before World War II. In December 1941, the war came to America. It hit us on our soil. And when that happened, Americans stood together and they answered the call. Hundreds of thousands volunteered for service. It was a sense of patriotism that pushed them to volunteer. Some in uniform, some not. It didn't matter. They were all in it together. Many traits, I think, of the greatest generation have been passed down over the years, and they are on display by our current service members. We have a lot in common. While World War II and the wars of today are different in so many ways, the men and women who are fighting the wars today are very much the same as those who served in the 1940s, in the 1950s, in the 1960s and 70s. I think today's service members join for a lot of the same reasons. They're full of a sense of duty and patriotism. For once again, our homeland was touched by an enemy attack in September 2001. Our way of life was threatened, and American citizens lined up to fight back. One thing that has not changed between 1945 and 2015, Americans stand behind our service members. Not everyone will always agree. I think not everyone will always agree with the politics of war, but Americans have never wavered in their support for the individuals fighting them. And they aren't today. Americans, like the great Americans that are seated here with us this morning, continue to show support in so many ways. Through care packages that you send to our troops, letters you write to our service members when they're deployed overseas. You tie yellow ribbons around a tree, and we all know what that means. It's a universal symbol. Or sometimes it's as simple as when you walk by one of us in an airport and you say, thank you. It means a lot. Or in other ways, like this great program this morning, this great ceremony. You put it on year after year to remember those who sacrificed so very much. And it goes beyond that. I think it goes beyond celebrating those sacrifices by so many. You also remember those and you celebrate those who are serving this morning, today. Today is the day, I think, to remember those who made the greatest sacrifice for our country. They gave everything they had and more. They left behind families and friends. But I truly believe, I think you do too, that their lives had a purpose. They helped guarantee the freedom that we enjoy in this greatest of nations. And in 1945, as well as in 2015, I would tell you our men and women know that America has their back. They know that those serving alongside them have their back. They know their families have their back. Whether it be on the windswept islands of Iwo Jima or the dusty mountains of Afghanistan in 2015, the will of America is the same. Americans have and always will be willing to serve their country, their fellow citizens, and their brothers and sisters in arms. Today, we look back over our shoulder with humility and reverence at those whose lives were cut short in heroic service to America. We look ahead with firm resolve to see our missions in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and elsewhere around the world through successfully. We ask that God continue to bless and watch over us in the days and weeks ahead and grant us the strength to fight for those ideals in which we believe. I ask that you continue to watch out over each other. Watch out for those serving now in uniform. Take care of them. Watch out over our families who selflessly bear a burden for a greater good. Take care of them. I think this is the very least we can do for those who have gone before, who now look down upon us from a more peaceful place, ever grateful that they lived as Americans. Thank you all for this opportunity to join you here today, and also for what you do every week for our men and women who serve in uniform. May God bless these great patriots that we're here to remember this morning, who now rest so peacefully in this great cemetery. God bless their families and their fellow service members. And God bless America. Thank you very much.